Welcome to Face. This is a show about change and about what's next. It's a show that wants to ask questions, peel back the layers of our average everyday experience, and go beyond scratching the surface. We interview amazing people with incredible ideas and stories who have done wild, weird, and wonderful things. Remember that imagination shared creates collaboration, and collaboration creates community, and community inspires social change. I'm David Peck, and this is Face to Face. My next interview at the Toronto Film Festival is with Noelle and her film Marie Curie, The Courage of Knowledge, subtitled The Courage of Knowledge. What a wonderful film, beautiful film, sensuous film, and it's about so many things. And of course, it's historically, it's a piece of historical filmmaking as well, but it's also about relationships and about family and about love and about generosity and altruism and structure. I mean, there's just so many things that come up in this film, and I think you're going to really enjoy the interview today with Marie Noelle, and it was the world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival, so make sure you check it out. It's the kind of film that you can enjoy just enjoy, but it's the kind of film you can also, I think, write about it. We talk about the beauty of silence and about integrity, and we talk about that, you can't be a genius scientist or artist if you're not rooted. We talk about play and the Curie therapy and what it means and how we could all use a dose of it or two metaphorically. So stay tuned. And if you're looking for more interviews about TIFF, check it out, ravel.ca, or my own website, davidpecklive.com. Also, more information there about my book, Real Change is Incremental. And if you want to book me to speak, you can find out more information there about that. Stay tuned for Marie Noelle talking about her film, Marie Curie, The Courage of Knowledge. Well, welcome to Face. We're joined by a very special guest today, live and actually face-to-face and in person here, Marie Noelle, the director of Marie Curie, subtitled The Courage of Knowledge, here in Toronto at the Hilton Inn. In fact, I hope you don't reprimand me too much, Marie, for being late for our interview, but thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me to talk about Marie Curie and the courage of knowledge.
I'm fascinated by the subtitle. As a bit of an academic over the years, I've written lots of essays and things, and I always spent a lot of time on subtitles of my essays. Tell me about why does it take courage to know?
Oh, it's a lot. It takes a lot of courage to face yourself with, to investigate life. I think it's something, that's why people very often remain on the surface and just, reproduce what they have seen right and left, of themselves, and don't go into things. Because to go into things, you might discover things which you won't like or which will hurt. And I think it's a very human thing to be afraid of being hurt. I think lots of people don't really live properly because they are afraid of being hurt. And they don't realize that by being afraid of anything in life, you're missing a lot of this life. And I think, that you have to confront yourself. Pain and is part of life, and like death is part of life. And but it's nothing you should be sad. Of course, you can mourn about the loss of someone and things like that. But you have to face it because that's life.
So in a sense, the courage to know in this is not so much about empiricism or scientific knowledge. This is about becoming better humans or knowing ourselves even more.
I think, that was something that Marie Curie and all the group, they were humanists, and that's what fascinated me. But the courage of knowledge is not only that. That's one facet of this courage of being better humans. They tried, all of them, Pierre Curie, Marie Curie, Paul Langevin, all this group, Jean Perrin, many other scientists of this time, which was a very exciting time for science.
Right.
and they tried to be the better beings they could be. I mean, the best one they could be, and they were convinced that what they are doing is useful for humanity. I mean, that they could bring some progress. Today, the notion of progress is something which you're afraid of. I mean, I don't know. Each time there is a new discovery, you only hear about the negative side of this discovery. You don't just look at the discovery itself, which is per se. We know very little. Like in your brain, you only use a little part of your brain. I mean, in life it's the same thing. You have so many things to discover, but now, you think, oh, it brings something wrong, or I don't know what. So I think they did not have that at all. They went into there. They were fascinated by these elements which would radiate from themselves. They thought, how is that possible?
It must have been an incredible discovery, really. Yeah. The irony of the danger of what it was they were touching and holding on to.
But it's not only dangerous. That's what I wanted to show too. I mean, is that it was not only dangerous. Of course, it's dangerous, but like you said, and that's something Marie Curie said. I mean, when man discovered fire.
That's
I mean, he burned
People
himself. But what would we do without that?
Yes,
and I think that's exactly the didactic, the dialectic of things. That you don't have bad good. There is no black and white. There is an infinity of nuances.
I love the way you bring out her. You humanize her so much. Typically, when you hear of a famous scientist who's won 2 Nobels, who's done something that many other people haven't done, and as a woman during that time, and as you show, would have been so difficult.
It was quite
difficult today.
But it's still the same today. I mean, that's why I think that's why I choose to do this movie, because it was not only, of course, I have a fascination for Marie Curie since I'm a child, and when I heard about this story of the affaire Langevin, I can't believe that you can treat a woman who already had a Nobel Prize, who did such an important work, and like this way, like war. I mean, it was so brutal what I read about it that I thought, it's always the same. I mean, we're equals, but not equals. Man and woman, they are different. And I see it myself. I mean, I encounter that today, and it's very strange that women who are successful businesswomen, they like very much this movie. Because they encounter things they can identify, because they have on other levels, of course, but they know what we are talking about.
What I love about what you did with her character, Marie Noelle, is you really humanized her as a scientist. So she was a brilliant mother, an attentive wife.
Yeah.
She was loving. The moment for me, I mean, almost brought a tear to my the apple in the train station.
Yeah.
This was a woman who had a generous heart and brilliant.
Yeah.
And typically, when I think of scientists, especially somebody like Marie Curie, you don't kind of think of them as being human almost. They're Nobel winners. They're out there, and it kind of comes up in the film a little bit, right? The idea that scientists aren't in the real world. Well, everything about Marie Curie she was totally rooted in the real world.
But I think you can't be a genius scientist if you're not rooted in life. And I think you can't be a genius artist if you're not rooted in life. I think it's very important, because that's your source. And Marie Curie, she wanted to know more about life. And she was happy to be able. I mean, she was completely conscious of her talent in physics and chemistry and mathematics, but she wanted to she thought it's a duty for her to put this talent at the service of discovering more things and helping those who have perhaps less talents, because that's something which is not democratic. Talent comes like that. You have it or not. You can't choose it. You can't acquire it. You can't buy it. Nothing. So that's the injustice of when you're born like you're born. But then you have, you're responsible for that, and you have to use it for something. That's what they thought. All of this group, which were incredibly talented physicists. But what I think as well, because knowing the world of research from my other life before being a filmmaker, I think, of course, scientists are very human. because they have the same thing. You have the ones which are, who have lots of vanity, the others who have, it's the same thing. It's the same, the one would do it even Marie Curie, there were lots of concurrence and things like that. But it's your own choice to decide to be straight. And they decided that impressed me very much because they were like that. But I think, on the other hand, I wanted to take her down from this icon kind yes, and so show. But she's a woman like you and me. I mean, of course, she has something more.
And so beautifully portrayed and so beautifully directed, I think, the way she's so gentle. I wanted to get to know this woman. I wanted to sit down and have a coffee with her.
Yeah, but exactly what I wanted to reach.
Wonderful.
And on top, I wanted to show the beauty of science, because I think it's a fascinating world, and I can imagine that, especially at this time, and because really, if you read about certain texts she wrote, it's almost poesy, when she talks about this radiation. I mean, that they would, what I put in the movie, that they would get up in the night, and they did that a lot because they were like kids completely. But how is that possible? It radiates from itself. It's so beautiful. Pierre Curie used to have a small sample of radium in his pocket, and then they would, in the evening, he would say, look, it was like a fairy tale kind of.
Which kind of ultimately led to her death to some degree, didn't it?
Well, what led to her death was what she did after what I'm telling. I could do 5 movies about Marie Curie because what happened, what she did during the First World War was incredible. I mean, I think she had the incentive was as well to show how. How good patriot she was for France too. I mean, she she organized to go to the front.
The front lines.
And the front lines, and make that was the beginning of X-rays. And then she organized. She went to all the rich women she knew and said, "Can you give me your big cars and things like that?" And she transformed them in small mobile X-ray units. And she even drove herself. I mean, she learned to drive, and she went with her daughter, Irene, which was 16 at the time, and she died of that too. And at this time, they had no fucking idea that was very dangerous. And so these X-rays made what happened in the end. I mean, of course, it was because they did not protect themselves.
Such an irony. Here she is giving. Here she is attending to others, and in the process actually dying herself as a result of.
Yes, but if you see, I mean, they were very tough cookies, these Curie people, the Sklodowska, because I mean, she became 66. Irene only became 54, but Eve, the small girl who was very talented for piano, and the only one in the family who did not get a Nobel Prize, but she married a diplomat, and he got the Peace Nobel Prize. Wow. I mean, I thought I can't believe it.
This is a bright family.
Yes, it's a great family. Yeah. And Eve became 104 years old. I mean, you can see, because she never was in the laboratory.
Well. I love the moment, and you were so careful, such a diligently careful with this in your filmmaking. I think how you show how relational she was, and I love the line, "Life is trivial if you can't think in pairs." And clearly, there's a scientific reference there, I suppose. But and they have such a beautiful relationship. Yeah. Them and their family and their kids, there's a concern for each other and a deep, deep love, her and Pierre. And it's a marvelous thing, I think, to say that here are these people committed and focused on changing the world, but yet deeply and madly in love still.
Yes, I think it was a perfect match. I think as I discovered her biography with 12, that's what fascinated me. I mean, that you could focus and do what you're passionate about and what you're good for, and at the same time find how do you say in English? To find a pair. I mean, someone you can completely complementary.
Your soulmate.
A soulmate.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
The soulmate. And I thought, how lucky she must have been. I mean, she was not only lucky because she was reflecting about lots of things, and she did see the negative sides of things. But what impressed me very much is that she was a woman, she was always working. I mean, even after she had problems, she lost even a child in between and all that, she would always go very quickly back to the lab because that was absolutely a passion. But she would, I mean, like when she realizes that her daughters are not giving the proper education, she creates this kind of school for them. I mean, and they were these kids, all the groups they were all the kids of all the scientists who belonged to this group, and they would go to the Sorbonne. I mean, she was laughed after, you know, wow, yeah, all the kids, they come. I mean, they have nothing to do there, especially they were young girls in there, you know, and that was kind of a scandal. And they were taught by Nobel Prize, and they were taught literature too, and with famous writers. You had Paderewski, a very famous pianist, who taught them music and all that. I mean, they had a kind of and her concept of that is great, is absolutely great. And it was not a concept which was only theory, but she said you have to know the basics. You have to know how you experience. You have to make your fingers
the question that one of her students said, basically she came back, he asked this what sounded like kind of a complicated question. He said, and Marie Curie said, are you asking me how you make discoveries?
Yeah.
And then she said, that's a brilliant question.
Yeah.
And it seems to me they were creating that environment, that theory, the practice. And then even when she talked about how much she hated the school system, I mean, she was way ahead of her time.
Completely.
You know, the idea of children playing, and don't teach them mathematics. Let them play.
Don't have them learn by heart.
That's right.
Have them understand what they are saying.
Yeah.
That's something completely else.
Well, and doesn't that make a great scientist?
Yes, but that's all the elements she used in her work, she used in her life too, and I like that, because, I mean, you should not be, I'm the professional, I'm a teacher, or I'm a singer, and then in life I'm an asshole, or I don't know what.
Yeah, she wasn't
you're not,
dualistic, right?
You're one person, and you have your convictions, your talents, and you use them there and there, the same way, of course, with different impacts, but it's, and I think it's a model. It's something we should
Well, I think it's a great
about.
model for, I mean, you definitely show too very well in the film that split between certainly then and probably still today in the scientific community, where you have your hardline kind of, you know, factual scientists, and then your other ones that are willing to, you know, challenge the status quo. What did Pierre say to her? She said if it's either the devil inside of the radium or it's indivisible, and he responds and says, well, that would contradict all known theories. How dare you, right?
Yeah. But she was very much like that. I mean, she always gave she had no fear. Once again, that was the core. Yes, she had absolutely no fear of going somewhere where, I mean, she never thought of the consequences of something. I mean, so she was not afraid. I mean, she just thought to the end, systematically, and that, I think, is very impressive. It's that's why she was very courageous.
Absolutely. Tell me, I love so many great lines in the film and great, beautiful moments, but what...
but most of them are really from her.
From her life.
Yeah.
By the way, I have to say, I know that the laboratory that you from the photos I've seen, you've recreated it very well.
Yes.
But I love the wood. I love the simplicity
of where these discoveries that was very important to me. I mean, a lot of people were making it that it looks like that, because I wanted, of course, I had a very very precise concept of what images should be. That's why it has a very special aesthetic, the whole movie. And I wanted that from the beginning you have a very sensual image.
Very sensual.
And something which takes you almost in an hypnotic world. I wanted that. I wanted it's a traveling.
So the line, the chemistry of the imponderable. is probably my favorite line in the whole movie.
Yeah, I love that too.
Tell me about that.
I love that too, because it is in this small, which was her invention, this word, but it shows you how poetic she was. And it completely, such line for me showed the person who is behind. I mean, if she's able to see that, to put together, because it's the contrary of science. I mean, it can't be imponderable if it is science is facts, like you said.
Sure.
And she opened it up. And she opened it up, and the same way where she says, but I mean, which principle are we going to use if that is not anymore possible? Because everything was changing, because of course with the relativity and the quantums, which basically until today relativity and quantum are still not really compatible, everything was put, so they were like not a vacuum, because it was full of things, but it was like on the moon, you know. I mean, you have no gravity anymore. It's kind of all the things are moving, and she was very at ease in there.
I was just going to say she was okay with that as a scientist.
Completely, because that was, she considered it like her work.
She almost wanted to purposely sort of break out of the structure. She knew that the structure was limiting.
Yeah, but she was the one who, I mean, especially, I mean, that she creates the word radioactive. I mean, it was her invention. The first element she discovered, they called polonium, because with the thing, basically, polonium was a very, very, it's a very dangerous element. I mean, radium is less dangerous than polonium, and but it was less interesting to work on because it disintegrated very quickly. So you could not really investigate more. So that's why radium became the most important. I don't know. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, no. Do you know what? We're having a wonderful conversation. I'm not too worried about you answering the questions. So I can't remember who it was. I think it was her said, quote, altruism and integrity are essential parts of our work.
Yes.
So do you think, you commented a little bit about it earlier on in the interview. Do you think that the scientific community, do you think that our pursuit of knowledge now still has that DNA? How's that? How's that for a little?
Well, I know quite a few scientists and quite a few new who are in the Academy of Science and things like that, and I know they are like that. But of course, you have others. I mean, generally, I think our world has become commercialized. So, and this commercialization of world has done that you forget about this integrity. I mean, or you just don't want to hear about it. You think you have it, but you might be a little bit corrupted. And I wanted to remind it. I mean, for me, it's what I'm saying about scientists or what she says about science and things like that. You can't just take it one-to-one for normal people in normal life. Because I think that's as well things not only scientists should have, but each person should have. I think it's very important, no matter what you do and no matter what, because in the end, you're alone with yourself. So I think you should not, you should really try to be straight and not try to play something you're not. And that is what I'm talking about with integrity. And they were like that because there was she was absolutely like that. And she was a free spirit, and that really impressed me, because I would like to have myself this freedom of thoughts, of course, with a capacity which took her to fields
this is becoming fully human, it seems to me, to be able to have that kind of freedom and to run into
but
it,
how
not
many
to run
people,
away from
that's why the courage of knowledge, because how many people dare to go this way, and I think if it inspires people to go there. There was yesterday 2 persons which really, I mean, by the showing, who were very nice. They came to me, an old lady first, and she said, because she had been working for the Institut Curie in Canada, and she said, it was so nice because I was in this lab. Wow. And I said, but it does not exist anymore. I said, yes, but you reconstructed it so well. It was like I had the feeling I'm in my youth. So I was very touched by her. And she said, but don't you want to tell as well the story afterwards? Because Afterwards, I mean, it's a beautiful story. The story of Marie Curie, which she had no means to go on. It's like a filmmaker, you know, you never have money to do the next movie. And she had no money because radium was quite expensive to go on. She had too little. She had given so many people samples without money, but afterwards nobody would give it to her. That's life. But she would not complain. She just found someone who organized a charity in America. And she came to America, she gave conferences, she built up people, because she would always build up people. She would always transmit her knowledge to others. And that's as well a courage. Because, you know, she was not saying, so my knowledge, so I keep it like that, and I'm going to sell it.
Mentor for
not
sure.
all. Yeah. She would give it. She would be very generous. She was. That's why she wanted transmissions. That's why I have this last image. I mean, it's transmission with her daughter, but it's a general image of. I think it's very important what you learn in life to transmit it. Yes.
Down the hall and she
yeah,
turning
and
back.
picking one.
It's a beautiful moment. It really is.
And that was an image I wrote first on my.
Sadly, we have to wrap up the interview. Yeah. I think you have to move on. Maybe we can do part 2 down the road. But you talk about, and I think it's historically accurate, Curie therapy.
Yes.
They actually called it that.
Yes.
That was for cancer treatment.
It was cancer therapy, which was the most successful cancer therapy until the 60s.
Could that have been a title for the film? You know,
that's interesting.
Do you know what seems to me, Noelle, is that we all could use with a little more.
Yes. Yeah, you're
Curie
right.
therapy,
I mean,
you know?
I never thought about that, but I think it's a nice. I mean, why not? It would be nice, anyhow, that this movie does you good. And that's why I wanted to this song in the end, which makes you feel dynamic.
Well, and I love the credit sequence, too, by the way. I'm not going to say anything more about it, maybe, because we'll tip your hat a little bit too much, but it's absolutely brilliant, and I'm so glad I stayed for it. Congratulations, and thank you. I mean, your film is so, in a way, not about Marie Curie. It's about relationships. It's about knowledge and science and philosophy and wonder and family, and the list goes on. Thank you so much for your time today with me. And it's the world premiere.
It was a world premiere, yeah. I was very excited yesterday to see like that. Mm.
Yeah, Marie Curie, The Courage of Knowledge, here with the filmmaker and director, Noelle. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.